Hello and welcome to the Zwift Race Place. I'm Kate Fravel, and today we are going to be covering the TFC Mad Monday Race on the Sand and Sequoias route in Watopia. We had a great race over in London last week, and this week we are heading into Watopia for this week's version of the TFC Mad Monday. Let's just take a quick look at the route velo viewer here. You can see Sand and Sequoias route comes through the desert, actually starts in the desert near the sprint point there. You come out and then around into the Titans Grove KOM, and intermediates will be available at the top of the Titans Grove KOM, Both laps, it is a 2-lap race today. You can see the orange start finish text, that is right around where the start finish banner will be. And on lap number 2, there will be intermediate points available through the sprint point. Okay, we are going to go in with our riders in just a moment, but first, a couple of exciting new things I want to talk to you about. First up, you don't want to miss Veganuary coming up soon on the Zwift Race Place. This is a race series from Team Vegan. They're hosting this. This is a 5-stage series with individual GC, team GC, sprint competitions, King Queen of the Mountain competitions, and women's GC competitions. Starts January 2nd, 2021, and I have a link to more info and the sign up for that down in the description below. Now, second, make sure you check out some of our community division coaching tips videos. Those are just some community riders sharing their coaching tips on the show. We had a great one last week from Adam Dawson teaching you how to read a field and find the optimal place to be in that field at any time during a race with just a simple trick. We will be taking a couple weeks off from those community division coaching tips over the holidays, but we will resume them with the ZRL in January every Tuesday. Also, if you don't have the Zwift Christmas sweater jersey, definitely check out my video on how to get that jersey. Now, our A racers are just about to start, so let's go in live with them right after we look at some of the team results from last week. You can see in the general results, Swedish Zwifters leading there. They did not have any presence in the Cat D race, but still managing to pull out a first place overall in the series, followed by Zwift Scotland. Then TFC, the host of this series, ART, BRT, I believe. After them, we have SDW, then Rhino, Glory, Cryogen, and followed by Canyon. Lucas Byam of the Canyon Dev team doing some stuff for them in the A race last week. He looked great. Then if you look at the results by the series, you can see the Swedish Zwifters are leading in the A and B race, with Cryogen taking the runner-up spot in our A series and Zwift Scotland close behind in the B series. Meanwhile, in the C race, TFC leading that one, with Glory not too far behind. In our D race, the Rhinos winning that series, followed by Zwift Scotland and TFC on the leaderboard as well. And then Zwift Scotland winning in our women's division, followed by BRT. BRT, team of Ellie Spink, one of our top women racers in the TFC Mad Monday series, then the ART and Swedish Zwifters squad. Alright, those are your results, so now it is time to go in with our A race. Here we are in the front group of our A race today with C. Carl of the WTRL squad. This is your front A pack here racing today, and they are currently just coming through the sand dunes in the desert here, approaching 6 minutes into this race, and all of our categories have gone off by now, I believe. Just can get rid of that waiting live commentary message as we are in live with the race right now. Now coming out into the little oasis here for our A racers, and see Carl sitting around the top 20 here. This is a prime position to be in the race today, but now it is time to talk about some of our favorites in this A race. We're looking at Lucas Byam of the Canyon Dev Squad, one of our number one favorites in the A race today, followed by Harry Mustard, Chris Yip, Rui Miguel Abrantes, and Marcus Jorgen are some of our favorites in this front pack today. Marcus Jorgen of the Swedish Zwifters, the leading squad. Our favorite in the A race, Lucas Byam, riding for the Canyon Dev team. That team sitting in 10th place overall on the leaderboard currently, I believe. And WTRL, the team of the rider that we are watching right now, just looking through the leaderboard, seeing if I can find them. WTRL sitting in 38th place. So, a little bit farther down. C. Carl not going to be able to dig them out of 38th place, as the Swedish Zwifters have a nice lead here. 879 points to 808 points to Zwift Scotland behind them in the overall standings. But it's just about time to head back with our B race, see how they are doing on course today. So, just about to head over with them. Just have to find them on course real quick. Maik Abraham, one of our favorites today in the B race, does not look like he is racing today. He won last week's race riding for the Bike and Scroll team. Having a hard time finding our B racers on course, but we should be with them in just a moment. A lot of our B racers do not appear to be racing today, so we're just going to have to head back through the leaderboard here, see if we can get to that B race. Just trying to get through this large group of A racers. A lot of A racers in the front group here. Go back towards the pens, and it looks like maybe our other categories not on course, having a hard time finding them right now. So we will stick with our A race for now and just try and get in with our B, C, D, and women's race a little later on. Our A racers are just about halfway through the desert, a little bit more now. And after this, they'll head up that Titans Grove KOM. Intermediates at the top of that. That is an intermediate point on course. So an opportunity for riders to get some points there. Continue trying to maintain contact with our B race. And we should be able to get in with them in not too long. M. Gamst of the KST team now moving up in the rankings here, sitting around 26th place overall, just inside that top 20, and this is a pretty optimal place to be. If we apply Adam Dawson's coaching tips, we saw that in a video just a few days ago. His tip is to multiply the width of the field by about 5, and that gives you prime position to be sitting in this course. So about 6 riders ride, so racers can afford to be around the 30th, 40th spot on the course here, as this field is pretty wide but still moving quite fast. Now, we have just gotten back in with our B race. This is Ties Diepenmat of the BRT squad, and as many of our other favorites are out of the B race today, Ties Diepenmat, one of our number one favorites for the win today. I believe that he is riding for the BRT squad, so Ties Diepenmat could bring home some points for them today. BRT sitting 5th in the Cat B series, and 5th overall as well. So BRT, a lot to lose here, sitting in those top 5. And if Ties Diepenmat can manage to bring home a win for them today, that would be great for this team. Now we see our B racers are just about to start at the base of the Titans Grove KOM. We will have to catch up with our A racers going over that intermediate shortly, but in the meantime, let's take a look back at our C race. Basti Loken, the favorite for that race. See if we can go in right with him today. Having a hard time finding Basti Loken, so instead we're going in with Chisholm McDonald, our number 2 favorite for the win today. Chisholm McDonald, this is a course that could suit him. We saw a nice performance from him last week's race. If we look at our C results from last week, Basti Loken won, followed by Chisholm McDonald, the rider that we're watching now of the Glory Squad, taking 2nd. So Chisholm McDonald with a chance. Last week's course was, I believe, 6 laps of the London Classique, so a flatter course. This one does have that Titans Grove KOM thrown in there, which could spice things up a little bit, but my guess is that we will not see any major attacks going off on the Titans Grove, just maybe some riders going for some intermediates there, and we'll just have to see what happens as these packs start to reach the KOM. And speaking of racers reaching the KOM, our A race will be joining. We will be joining with our A race in just a couple moments, because they are on to the KOM now. And that, of course, some intermediate points available there, and we do not want to miss that. But before we go, just see Arbov Jr., the TFC rider, in the middle of this pack, and he is one that you should be watching out for. A younger rider, a little bit lighter, so this is not quite the course that would suit him, but we've seen him come home with a win in TFC Mad Monday races before, and just keep an eye on him in the final sprint. Arbov Jr. in one of those yellow TFC jerseys with the orange headband, I believe, sitting right around the center of this pack. Now back to the front with Lucas Byam, the Canyon Dev rider, and our A racers are just coming over the first lump in the Titans Grove KOM. Lucas Byam of Canyon Dev sitting around 80th place overall, so pretty far back in the pack. But moving up towards the front of this pack, see if we can get to the front, because these front riders will be the ones contesting for that win over the intermediate, with M. Gustafsson of the Swedish Swifters squad leading them out in that Swedish Swifters jersey. Swedish Swifters, of course, donning the white, blue, and yellow, and he is drifting back a little bit now, but trying to stay in the front. P. Johansson of the Swedish Swifters also up here as well. And this is why these Swedish Swifters are leading in this series. Lots of riders in the front group, just packing the front groups, taking those intermediates and solid positions in the finale. That is the number one strategy to getting a win here in the TFC Mad Monday series, and we see Swedish Swifters executing it to perfection as our A racers just about to start the second incline of this intermediate. Can check in with our women's race real quick, I believe, as our A racers still a little bit to go before the top of that Titans Grove KOM. Here we are with Ellie Spink. She is in the lead pack in our women's race, and they are just reaching the base of the Titans Grove KOM, whereas our A racers are much farther up there. And we've seen a great turnout in the women's race for this 6th edition of the TFC Mad Monday series. Looking at some favorites in the women's race today, we have, I believe, Malin R. Kogstrom of the Swedish Swifters, another Swedish Swifter there. Number one favorite today, and it looks like the Swedish Swifters stepped up their act in the women's race. They took 160 points in that race last week. Their lowest, or not, that was pretty decent points for them. Then Lizzie Duncombe, a notable rider from Great Britain, also racing today. Kath Tompkinson, HM, Ruth Breeze, Beth Jones, and tons of other riders. It does not look like Ellie Spink is in the Zwift Power standings right now. I know she is registered on Zwift Power, so she must have just registered before I got all this data for signups just a little bit earlier today. But she is sitting in this front pack in that purple jersey, riding for the BRT squad, sitting 5th overall. And we'll see what she can do. She has won many a TFC Mad Monday race in the past, and we'll just have to see if she can do it again. Up against some stiff competition, though, with Lizzie Duncombe, the rider from Great Britain, super strong. But heading back over to our A race now, before they come over the top of that intermediate point. Here we are with our A race. Lucas Byam of the Canyon Dev Squad, seen him win in a TFC Mad Monday race before as well, in series number 5, I believe. If we look at the standings from last week's race on the London Classique, our winner last week, Joachim Leeson, I'm not sure if he is racing in this front group today, but I believe he is. Just have to watch. It's a super large group. And here is Chris McGlinchey on the front, along with Ehul. McGlinchey racing in the ZRL. Super fast rider here, racing in the Premier Divisions, and he is on the front of this A race, splitting it apart. If you look at the minimap in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see that this A race just being blown to shreds as Chris McGlinchey, K. Yip, P. Brady, all these riders launching their sprint early, just trying to get over the top of this KOM in first, and now it is the break for the line with Ehul leading them out. The Cryo RDT rider, it looks like he will have it over the line, just getting, there we go. Ehul, the Cryo RDT rider, taking it on the line, followed by K. Yip, the World Elite Zwifter, and I believe L. Tugels, the pro rider in our front group. He took 3rd. Chris McGlinchey up there as well, 4th or 5th. Just have to wait for confirmation on that. But that was a great sprint from all of our lead A racers. And now these few riders, a little gap to the rest of the field, about 1-2 seconds. But they will not hold that. The field already catching back on. Chris McGlinchey at the front of the field there. And all these riders going to get swept back up on the descent here. But we got to head back with our B race before they come over the top. And they may have come over the top of that KOM already, but see if we can catch them before it's too late. here we are with Ties Diepenmaat, and it looks like these riders have already come over the top of the KOM. Just missed that, so we'll head back with our C riders to see if we can catch their intermediate finish. Just got Chisholm McDonald here in our C race, and these racers have not yet come over the top of the Titans Grove KOM, which means that we are watching first place on the road right now, Pia Lopez, 40, this rider in that standard orange Zwift jersey, off the front of our C race right now, being chased by Cochin Chinman and our Venderhoot chasing behind that. Mpai up here as well. F. Lopez, another notable name on the leaderboard over there. See, Basti Locken, that rider is racing today. I was incorrect about him not being present on the starting line over in the leaderboard. Arbov Jr. up there as well. But P. Lopes has gotten quite a gap to the rest of the field. Looks like 6-7 seconds now, and it will be between him and Cochin Chaman for the win in the intermediate today, for those intermediate points for their teams. Just taking a look at some of our favorites, I do not believe that P. Lopez is on that Zwift Power list, and we'll just have to see if he's in the Zwift Power rankings, because he looks like he's pushing well over category limits here as he pushes up towards the top of this Titans Grove KOM. Just go to the overhead view for a second. You can see that there is no pack in sight. He has blown them all away. Ace Spivak, Cryogen rider, chasing as well. Another notable name over there on the leaderboard. Just having to check in, see if we can get those official standings right now from Zwift Power. If we see him on those Zwift Power standings, then he is a legitimate racer. I mean, he could be a legitimate racer without being on those standings, but looks like he could be putting in some sandbagging here. And this is a perfect segue into a topic that I wanted to talk about already, which is TFC's new sandbagging rules for the Mad Monday series. This rule basically states that if they see that you've won like 9-10 races in your category already, other races, not just TFC races, then they think that you should be upgraded because you're clearly showing, well, just real quick, Pia Lopez taking the first place over that intermediate there. Cochin Chinman following it up, and it looks like it's going to be a sprint, or not a sprint. Chriso followed by Mpai and D. Bolotsky. Those are your third, fourth, and fifth place riders over the intermediate for the C race, and we'll head back with the D race in just a minute. But back to those new rules from TFC. They've said that if you've won, for example, a substantial amount of races, other Zwift races. Sorry, just gotta catch up with our D race real quick. But if you've won a substantial amount of other D races, for example, if you were a D rider, then they believe that you should be upgraded. So they'll take a look into your data and just ultimately make the decision as to whether or not you will get a forced upgrade or DQ from the race. So let me know down in the comments below if you agree with this new rule put out by TFC. Just say, yes, I agree. If a rider's winning that many races in their category, it's time to move up. Or no, if they're winning within category limits, then they get to continue winning because it shows growth and it shows strength, and those riders deserve the win. So just let me know down in the comments below what you think on that topic, or if you're watching live, let me know over in the live chat. If we look back with Mark Bruford now, he is sitting 44th place overall. He was our favorite in the D race today, but it does not look like he made that front selection. So just trying to get to the front of our D race, and this is always tough because our D and E races released at the same time. But looking now to our E race, because it looks like our D race may have already gone over the top. Elle Massey leading them out, just checking over on Zwift Power to see if she is in those official results. But also up here, we see Lizzie Duncombe, the pro rider in the race today, and McGinty of the TFC squad. So these are your 3 riders, and it looks like S. McGinty launching her sprint first, and she will be first over the line, followed by Lizzie Duncombe and then Elle Massey. If we go over to the official results, Sprinty McGinty is officially registered on Zwift Power, so she will be included in those results. The TFC racer that just took first in our intermediate here. Just gonna have to look through some of these. Oh, yep, there we go. Laura Massey of the Draft ZRL squad. She is also registered on Zwift Power. And Lizzie Duncombe, of course, registered on Zwift Power as a pro Zwifter. So all 3 of those women in the top 3 spots over the intermediate will be getting official points towards the series. And it looks like these 3 have formed a little bit of a breakaway here. 13 seconds to the rest of the group containing Ellie Spink. See if Ellie Spink will try and bridge the gap or if she's stuck in that back group for a while here. A. Hayden of the Zwift Scotland squad also in that group back there. Believe we saw Hayden with a great performance on the London Classic last week. So Hayden, see if she and Spink can bridge that gap. 2 great riders there. But I don't know if they can beat the likes of Lizzie Duncombe, an amazing rider in Lizzie Duncombe, and she is in this front group with Laura Massey and Sprinty McGinty. And we'll head back up to the front with our A race now, as these racers have come over that intermediate point. Our A racers will be a little bit farther along on the course. Now in with, thought this was the A race. This is Lucas Byam of the Canyon Dev squad, and it looks like he has dropped out of the race. Maybe. No longer being shown in the race view, so it looks like Lucas Byam, the Canyon Dev rider, seen great performances from him. Maybe had a dropout or just dropping out of the race altogether. We'll be back in with your A race in just a moment. Now, here we are in the front A race with Harry Mustard of the Cryo RDT squad, and it looks like there's been a bit of a split in this A race. See the view here? Riders spread out all from the back of this peloton. Still a large group there coming into the desert. And Harry Mustard at the front. L. Tugels has gone off the front, one of our pro racers today, and he is looking impressive off the front of this race. Just about a second to the rest of the riders, and this seems a bit like a waste of energy to me. Not going to make a successful attack in the desert, I don't think. I think that larger pack will have too much of an advantage to chase him down, but Tugel's a pro rider, knows what he's doing, and has some strong legs here, so in all likelihood, he could prove me wrong today. So, L. Tugels of the TIS team, just have to see what he has on the day. And the gap is growing, now out to 3-4 seconds to the rest of the field, including some of our Swedish Swifters. C. Carl of the WTRL squad. All some notable names back there. And looking over back to our favorites in the A race for today. Nicholas Pedersen of the PO Auto Ceramic Speed squad. Now, your favorite. I got this data earlier today, but a lot of new signups have come in before then. Leonard Tugels, the rider that we are watching right now of the BZR squad, is looks like number 5 on the favorites list. Zaki Yama, Christopher McGlinchey, and Eddie Houle also up there as well. We saw Chris McGlinchey in that intermediate sprint at the top of the Titans Grove KOM on lap 1. He was up there with the rest of these riders, and we saw a pretty nice performance from him. Lucas Byam, the Kenyan Dev rider we just saw quitting the race, it appears. He was also on that favorites list around number 10. Definitely top 10 on there. And although the Swedish Zwifters are leading in the A-Race series results, they don't have a favorite until around the 11th spot. It just shows that quantity can sometimes be more important than quality. Swedish Zwifters are able to get plenty of riders over the finish line in the top group, and that really pays off for them in the end, even if they're not taking the number 1, number 2, number 3 spots on the day. Don't even have to be inside of the top 10 necessarily. I mean, all riders getting points. But now, Christopher McGlinchey on the front of our pack behind. He is a pro rider. He knows the threat that Leonard Tugels poses right here. Christopher McGlinchey, the Irishman, is chasing hard, and the gap is down to 3 seconds. Chris McGlinchey pushing really hard to come back up to this rider here. See if we can go back with him. And now Leonard Tugels is in sight. You can see the rider ahead of Chris McGlinchey just up there, not that far. Now, if today was a ZRL day, we'd see Christopher McGlinchey racing in the ZRL, but the ZRL, of course, Season 2 not resuming until January of 2021. So, for now, Christopher McGlinchey testing out his legs in the TFC Mad Monday race, and it'll be great to see if he shows up next Monday as well. Could make for an exciting race between some of these riders up here. Some of these pros, I should say. Nicholas Pedersen, a PO Auto rider, really strong rider in him as well. And Leonard Tugels, we're seeing him do some pretty great things. P. Brady of the Evox squad is also trying to get into this break. And right now it is C. Carl of the WTRL squad chasing about 7 seconds behind in the other group. So we will be leaving these riders in the desert in just a moment. Going to head on over to one of our other categories today. If you are enjoying the stream, please hit that like button and subscribe to the Zwift Race Place for more live community division race coverage, as well as some of our community division coaching tips and just some general Zwift knowledge. Heading back to see if we can find our D race right now as they enter the desert. Having a hard time finding the leader of that race on course, just due to the fact that a lot of the racers riding in the D race are sandbagging. So the rider shown in the number 1 spot on the Zwift leaderboard is not always the number 1 rider on Zwift Power, and Zwift Power, of course, is what marks the official results in the series. So here we are with Michael Alls. He is being shown as first in the Zwift Power live results, so I'm going to assume that he is our first Zwift Power racer today. Mark Bruford, another Rhino. The Rhinos leading in the D series today, also being shown up here in the standings. So going to assume that this is in fact the front of our D race according to Zwift Power results, so to say. Just looking through some of our other D racers over here on the leaderboard, and I do not see any of them included in the signups or the results on Zwift Power. So we're just going to assume that Michael Alls, the Rhino, is number 1 today, currently riding around the number 1 spot. And it's impossible to tell exactly how many of these riders here are officially registered on Zwift Power. Just going through, trying to see if I can find any that are. But Michael Alls for sure registered on Zwift Power and bringing home a lot of points for those Rhinos in the D Series. If we look over at our D Series results, we have the Rhino squad with 250 points, followed by Zwift Scotland with 227. That's a decent gap, but it could easily be closed by Zwift Scotland. So that deficit, both teams will have to watch that and see if Zwift Scotland can pull a move in this D race today. If we look over to the leaderboard now, just having a hard time loading that up. It looks like our first Zwift Scotland rider in this front group, Ben Sly. Zwift Scotland also representing up here in the D race today with Barry Howelson. And then farther down on the leaderboard, Jez Wardman. So those three from the Zwift Scotland squad, whereas our Rhinos racing in this D race today, we have Michael Alls, Mark Bruford, and Jonathan Lastman. So it is a 3-to-3 ratio, and currently the Rhinos have a few more riders towards the front of the race, but that does not mean that Zwift Scotland could not take home more points today and start to close that gap down to the Rhinos. Alright, this is your D race, and we see a lot of Christmas sweater jerseys in here. If you want to learn how to get the Christmas sweater jersey on Zwift, check out my video on that. I believe that is linked down in the description below. And as I said before, don't forget to sign up for Veganuary, 5-week series, 5-week stage race, really, being brought to you by Team Vegan. And no, you do not have to be a vegan. I'm not either. But we will be bringing you live coverage of that series here on the Zwift Race Place every Saturday, I believe at 16:30 Greenwich Mean Time. So works for most of you over there racing in Europe, and some of you racing here in the US would be able to make that time work. Just depends on your schedule. But time to go back in with our women's race now, and they are just a little bit farther up here on the leaderboard. This is an exciting women's race today with Lizzie Duncombe making a showing. She would also be racing in the ZRL like Christopher McGlinchey, but no ZRL this week, so she has made a presence in the TFC Mad Monday race up here with Laura Massey and Sprinty McGinty. I feel like Sprinty McGinty's name just suits this course. If you're going to name yourself Sprinty McGinty, you'd assume that that rider would have a pretty strong sprint, so we'll see what Sprinty McGinty can do in the finale to our women's race today. And she is, of course, one of our TFC riders today, so it would be great to see a TFC rider win in their own series this week. TFC not on that women's leaderboard, though, currently. Zwift Scotland leading that race, followed by BRT, ART, the Swedish Zwifters, Canyon, and then RNDE. Those are the teams competing for the front in your women's race. Draft, I believe that is the team of Laura Massey, also not on your women's category leaderboard, so see if they can maybe move up a couple spots with Laura Massey in this front breakaway here today. As I was saying before, Zwift Scotland leading our women's race, and it looks like the Zwift Scotland riders representing today in the E-Race include Heather Shanks, HM, and Alexandra Hayden. That is Alexandra Hayden. She had a great performance in last week's TFC Mad Monday race on the London Classique. Oops, sorry about that. Just lost our women's race for a minute there. There we go. Back with Sprinty McGinty. Katie Turbett, another Zwift Scotland rider, and Vicky Harper. So a large amount of riders racing in our women's race today for Zwift Scotland. And as I've said before, that really is the key to winning in the TFC Mad Monday series. Pushing as many riders as you can into these races. You don't have to be winning or even taking top 10 spots. If you've got a large number of riders in the race, you're pretty much guaranteed a top 5 spot in the points competition for at least one of the categories, or maybe even in the overall. Alright, this is our women's race, and we'll leave these 3 racers here. Sprinty McGinty, Laura Massey, and Lizzie Duncombe. They've got about a 35-second gap to the chasers behind, and I believe that they will hold that all the way to the finish. It'll be a sprint between these three for first place, and this will be a highly anticipated sprint. I can't wait to see that. Believe we missed the intermediate sprint coming through the sprint point on lap 2. There were points available there, so just have to go back onto Zwift Power and take a look to see under the Preems tab who took those points. And I did include a link to the Zwift Power Live data on this race down in the description below, so just scroll down into the description and click on that link after the race for all of the official results and intermediate results as well. But now it is time to head back up into the front with our A race. I think that we will be joining, let's see, gotta get one of our favorites today in the A race. So we're going to be going up towards the front with Eddie Hool of the Cryo RDT team. Here we go, and our A racers have just started Titans Grove KOM over the first lump in the road, and now onto the second steeper section in this race. Eddie Hool sitting around 27th place overall, but if we want to see the real front here, we go up to the front with Leonard Tugels and Christopher McGlinchey. Those are your two breakaway riders leading from the front today. They now have 18 seconds to the main pack behind. I said I didn't think Leonard Tugels was going to make it solo, and then it turned out he didn't go solo. Christopher McGlinchey, the Irishman, was able to bridge that gap, and now it is two riders riding together towards the finish. Cooperation will just have to determine if this breakaway works, but it looks like the two riding together quite nicely for the moment. The gap sitting pretty steady around 18 seconds, and we'll just have to see if the field can bring that back. Leonard Tugels of the TIS team seems to be leading out for Christopher McGlinchey here. If I were him, I'd maybe back off the front a little bit, let McGlinchey do a little bit of the pulling. It is just around 3% here, with some dips down towards flatter sections, so drafting definitely still playing a role in the racing, even on this little Titans Grove KOM. But Christopher McGlinchey now coming around Leonard Tugels and not allowing any draft. 6 meters back to Tugels, and it looks like Tugels is in a little bit of trouble here, just trying to chase back onto the wheel of Christopher McGlinchey. McGlinchey, of course, a very strong rider, but Tugels wearing those bands, I believe those are the German bands, so both of these riders could make something happen here coming up towards that intermediate. We just zoom out on the mini map up there. You can see the intermediate comes right around the second zigzag after this U-turn, if that makes any sense. Maybe I can just return it to this view. Should be able to see it after the riders come around this little U-turn in the road here. Leonard Tugels now on the front, pushing some bigger numbers now. Now both riders heading up towards 7 watts per kilograms, and this is the start of a sprint from both of these riders. Leonard Tugels and Chris McGlinchey, both with that pro jersey next to their name, the orange pro jersey, indicating that they are both extremely strong riders riding in your A race today, and Leonard Tugels is leading it out towards the sprint point. It's just a small line on the road, two little rock pillars mark the sprint point, and Christopher McGlinchey is not going to be able to come around Leonard Tugels for the max points there. So McGlinchey looks like he will take second through the sprint point. Leonard Tugels taking max points through the sprint. Eddie Hool sprinting for it behind. Believe he will be our third rider over the line, followed by Kay Yip of the World Elite Swifters squad. So Cryo RDT and World Elite Swifters picking up some points there from behind. Now back to the front of our A race now. And our racers will finish at the sprint banner after the second pass of the Titans Grove KOM. So we will be staying with our A racers for the rest of the race here, I believe. don't want to miss their finish. Then it'll be back with the B race for the B race finish. After that, we'll head back to the C race, and we'll just have to see which race finishes first, our women's race or our D race, but catching both of those finishes as well. Trying to get equal coverage of all categories here. If we take a look back over towards the D race standings, it looks like Michael Alls of the Rhino squad is still... Sorry about that. Just heading back. It's in the wrong place there. Yes, Michael Alls of the Rhinos still showing as number 1 on the Zwift Power leaderboard. That, of course, doesn't update immediately. It updates every minute, but Oris Polanis of the Swedish Zwifters up there as well, and Jimbo V, Dan Downs, and Ollie Fusswell. Those are some of the lead riders in the D race right now, and those are your lead riders according to Zwift Power anyway. Of course, a lot of sandbaggers in the D race. In this TFC Mad Monday race, probably the most prominent category for sandbagging. But as I was talking about earlier, TFC releasing new rules in terms of sandbagging as to whether or not you will be DQ'd or not. So basically, those rules state that if you've won, say, 10, 15 races in your category previously, you are at risk of being DQ'd. TFC believes that you should be promoted for that number of wins. You shouldn't get to keep winning. If you're getting faster, you move up a category. You guys, let me know down in the comments below what you think about this. Is it fair that TFC gets to say that riders need to move up even when they're still within category limits after winning a substantial number of races? Or is it not fair as long as riders are within category limits? You know, I can see both sides of the argument here. It really does make the racing more fun for everyone if the same guy that wins every week finally levels up to a Cat B instead of a Cat C. But then also, is it fair to him as long as he's still within category limits? And there I might even say no. So, you know, just obviously two sides to the argument there, and you guys let me know down in the comments below what you think about that new rule, or over in the live chat if you're watching this live. And if you are enjoying the stream, please hit the like button and subscribe to the Zwift Race Place for more live race coverage, community division coaching tips, and just some general Zwift knowledge. Alright, our A-Race leaders, Christopher McGlinchey and Leonard Tugels, have just about come off of the Titans Grove KOM here, just finishing this out with a couple of rollers. And the pack behind has closed the gap drastically. Started at 18 seconds towards the top of that KOM, and now the gap down to 7 seconds. If we look towards the front of the pack back here, we see Trekkie of the AHDR squad on the front chasing. Also up here, C. Carl, the WTRL rider. And I believe that is A. Whiteshirt, another prominent A division rider. Eddie Hool, one of our favorites in the A race today, also chasing on the front here. In the gap, still sitting right around 7 seconds to our two leaders. Here they are, Leonard Tugels of the TIS team, and Christopher McGlinchey, the Irishman in Pro Division Racer, racing in the Premier League in the ZRL right now. Not right now, when Season 2 resumes in January. These two have just been going back and forth. Tugels is the rider in the white jersey with the German bands, whereas Christopher McGlinchey wearing that red to black fade jersey. These two just coming through the intersection here, and the gap still standing at 7 seconds. Not too far to the finish from here. I think it's about a mile. So we'll just have to see what it looks like from these two racers coming in to the finish here. Looking real quick for the official distance. 43 kilometers. 43 kilometers is 26.7 miles. So as I was saying, these riders just now a mile out from the finish, and the gap sitting now at 8 seconds. So the gap coming out just a little bit. But you never know what could happen here. Our A racers are predicted to come in around 53:47. I think they might speed up a little bit before then. Sprints already starting to be launched from our two lead riders here, it looks like. Not launched, but they're starting to speed up, pushing around 7 watts per kilograms. Pretty large numbers here as they come in towards the finish, and the gap now back to 7 seconds. Will the pack behind be able to catch these racers up here? Kevin Matthews of the ART Nuclear Squad saying, come on, start working. I do not know if that is directed at that A pack behind. Believe it probably is, because they definitely need to start working to reel back in these two front riders if they plan on having a chance at the win today. This rider's now just about 0.8 of a mile left to go to the finish. We are almost within a kilometer as Leonard Tugel seems to be struggling off the back of Chris McGlinchey's wheel and maybe even out of the draft here. 5 meters back, 4 or 5, hovering right around those two numbers. Now back to 3, 2, and Leonard Tugel's coming back into the frame, managing to stick on Chris McGlinchey's wheel. And it will be a battle royale between the two of them for the win today. Their pace starting to slow again. I think that they are pretty sure that they have it now. An 8-second gap to the chasing pack, and the distance is coming down only, less than a half a mile, under a kilometer to go now to the finish. And it will be a sprint between the two of these two riders for the finish. As Eddie Houle is launching his sprint already, 6 seconds back. Will Eddie Houle be able to close the gap? I don't think so, but we'll just have to see. Do McGlinchey and Tugels have anything left in the tank? McGlinchey taking over as Tugels launches an attack now. Eddie Houle only 3 seconds behind, and the gap is closing fast from Eddie Houle. Christopher McGlinchey now launching a sprint, stalling Eddie Houle's advance, but Eddie Houle was still moving up from the Cryo RDT squad. Leonard Tugels, but right behind, it looks like Ziyama Rule 5. No, Christopher McGlinchey is the first one over the line. I believe K. Yip following Eddie Houle up there as well. That was a tight finish, and we will just have to wait for the official results from Zwift Power. But I believe Christopher McGlinchey pulled it out, came down to the wire. The chasing pack from behind caught our two lead riders just at the line. See if our pack behind managed to beat out Chris McGlinchey and Leonard Tugels for the win. Actually, I know for a fact Leonard Tugels did not take the win in that final sprint, but he was definitely up there with a top 10 finish. Alright, heading back with our B race now, I believe. Just got to figure out who we are going to go in with right now. Here we are with T.S. Dippenmont, the BRT rider in the front B pack, here sitting around 7th place overall, top 10 right now, in pretty prime position for this finish. And will he be able to pull it out? T.S. Dippenmont, our number one favorite for today, after some other riders in our B race, some other favorites in the B race not starting today, including Maik Abraham, the winner of last week's B race. Heading back over to Zwift Power Live now, see if we can get an update from Zwift Power on the official results in the A race. Those will come through shortly, just have to be patient. Patrick Brady of Evoc Bike was also up there in that A race as well. He had a shot at that sprint, and just have to wait to see where he came in the final standings. But for now, it's all eyes on the B race with Thies Diepenmont. And before we continue, just want to give a quick shout out to Max Barge for subscribing to the channel. Check out his channel, Max Barge. Thank you for subscribing if you are still watching. Just a quick shout out to him before the finish of our B race. Now, T. Steppenmont starting to move towards the back of this B race, and we're moving back up with the front here. Don't want to go too far, but watching R. Young, the AHDR rider, leading them out into the sprint point. Just looking to see if we can get a view on the corner. Those riders should be coming around the corner in just a minute. Unable to see them there. C. Schmidt, the KCB1 rider, also up here. M. Huber. These are all riders competing for the top spot in your B race today. Young getting sucked back into the group now. Saw Dennis Berglund, the Swedish Zwifter, up here as well. See if we can... Yep, here's Dennis Berglund, and now it's a sprint being launched. P. Bolland, our favorite in the B race. I didn't think he had started today, but Peter Bolland is in this front group, and he has been the first to launch a sprint, chased by M. Hagen of the Swedish Swifters. Hagen closing the gap, and it looks like a Swedish Swifter could have it on the day. Also up here, is that M. Huber? It's like M. Huber up here as well. Can see the sprint banner coming up. Looks like Cadell Evans on the front. Cadell Evans leading them out, but who is in front of him? This could be a tight race to the line. C. Schmidt, he's being shown in 4th place, but it looks like C. Schmidt getting pipped out at the line by C. Wood. C. Schmidt, I believe, taking 2nd, but not quite confirmed yet. And just after saying that, perfect timing, our A race results have been confirmed, and I will get those to you in just a moment, right after we make sure to get back in with our C race so we don't miss their finish. Here we are with Chisholm McDonald and our C race a little bit farther behind. They are just coming off the Titans Grove KOM after their 2nd lap, so a little bit longer to the finish, and this will give us time to review those results, official results in the A race, look at how the team series standings might look after that. So Christopher McGlinchey winning for the Vitus Pro Cycling squad. Vitus Pro Cycling not really even on the leaderboard here, so that will not make a difference in the results. And Christopher McGlinchey just racing in that race while the ZRL is temporarily not in session. We will have Season 2 of the ZRL next January. But Zakiyama of the Rule 5 squad, he took 2nd. Just looking to see if I see Rule 5 here on the leaderboard. Rule 5 not in our top 20, I don't believe. So that Rule 5 result not going to make a huge difference today in the A race. Let's head back up farther towards front of our C race here. Then Chris Yip from the World Elite Swifters team, he took 3rd. So Chris Yip in World Elite Swifters, that is one of the first more notable teams in those results. Rule 5 was sitting 5th place overall in the Cat A specific series standings, so they could move up with Zakiyama's 2nd place there. As I was saying, the World Elite Swifters, just looking through the leaderboard for them. Rule 5 sitting in 23rd place overall, by the way. And World Elite Swifters sitting in 30th. Then Leonard Tugels of the BZR SPSD team. BZR is, I believe, maybe a little farther up on the leaderboard, but I could be wrong about that. Yeah, do not see BZR in any notable positions here overall. heading back into our C race at the moment, Cochin Shinman has taken over the lead with a 1 second gap to M. Lorenzo chasing behind, and this is the battle for the win in your C race today. They are not that far out from the finish, just about 7/10 of a mile now, approaching 1 kilometer to go. If there was a 1K to go banner, it'd be right up here, right there. We are just within 1K to go right now. And our official results in the B race are in now, so I will just go over those in a minute after the finish to our C race. But meanwhile, Cochin Shinman is leading this out. M. Lorenzo 19 meters back, 1 second, but M. Lorenzo pushing some higher watts per kilograms there. Lorenzo now closing down the gap, and I think he could make it at the line. It's still a little ways to the finish, and there we go, M. Lorenzo coming around him. M. Lorenzo now sitting in first place with a strong sprint. He looks like he might have this one in the bag. Cochin Shinman is fading now quite a ways back. See Andy Ellis of the RR Rhinos up there as well. He's sitting around 6 seconds back. See if he can make something happen. Seen him win in some of these TFC Mad Monday races before, but it looks like M. Lorenzo that is really leading this one out, followed by AB of the BGI Trek Squad. But M. Lorenzo got about 10 meters to the next rider on the road, and this finish line is right up there. M. Lorenzo taking it on the line, followed by AB of the BGI Trek Squad, and then after that, it was Cochin Shinman. So those are your top 3 in the C race. Pretty sure about that, but we can wait for the official results. Just heading back with our E race now. Pretty sure that we can catch them before their finish. Here we are with Lizzie Duncombe. She is leading out this E-race with Laura Massey, and these two riders have been in a lone breakaway. Well, actually, Sprinty McGinty, the TFC rider, was up there with them for a while as well, but she has now been dropped from our lead women's race group, and it's now a race between Lizzie Duncombe and Laura Massey for the win. These two riders have come off the Titans Grove KOM, and it is just about 1.5 miles to the finish for these two. Now, gives us a little bit of time to go over our official results in the B race. Chris Schmidt of the Kirschmere E-Cycling Squad taking first there. Hens Letgers of the Zwalwyn Squad in second. Thies Diepenmont BRT Squad in third. Rich B of the Aero Squad in fourth. And Chris Ovens of the Innovation Squad in fifth. If we look at our current leaderboard right now, Swedish Swifters were leading our B race standings, and they have the first rider that they have is Jesper Linden, right around 9th place, and then also making a presence with Magnus Hagren farther down on the leaderboard, and then a couple of other Swedish Swifters riders. So I don't think that there is any real threat to the lead of the Swedish Swifters here today, as none of these other teams posing a real threat in that B race. But if we look at the overall team standings, saw BRT, the BRT rider, Thies Diepenmont, taking third. Those will be some good points for his team today. They had a strong showing in the B race last week, it looks like. BRT took in the third most points out of all the categories in their B race last week. So they'll get some nice points for that third place finish. Kirschmere E-Cycling will also get some points, but not as far up on the leaderboard. So that third place by Thies Diepenmont is the biggest point upset in our B race, because BRT in the top 5 fighting for the win. But now back to our women's race, as they are just approaching, believe it, they're just approaching the 1K to go mark. That will be coming in just a moment. And from there, it will be a fierce sprint between Laura Massey and Lizzie Duncombe for the win. These riders not pushing some massive watts. Looks like 2.8 watts per kilograms from Lizzie Duncombe, and around 3 watts per kilograms from Laura Massey. Just have to check, see if our D racers, when they might be coming in. They are predicted about 7 minutes after. Predicted to come in about 7 minutes after our women's race. At least our Zwift Power leaders of the D race, not counting the sandbagging leaders of the D race, not registered on Zwift Power. Oris Polanis, the Swedish Swifter, leading in the D race currently. But it is now Lizzie Duncombe taking over on the front in our women's race. Just about 0.3 of a mile left to race, and Laura Massey on her wheel. Neither of them have launched a sprint yet, and we can see the finish arch just up ahead. Which one will be taking it today? Still neither rider launching a sprint. Now Lizzie Duncombe pulling ahead a little bit. Laura Massey launching from behind. It looks like Lizzie Duncombe maintaining her lead. It's close on the line. And, I think Lizzie Duncombe had it by just a hair. But Laura Massey nearly came around her on the finish line. That was a photo finish if I've ever seen one. And we will just have to wait and see what Zwift Power has to say on the matter. But quickly, we have to get back with our D race before they finish today. And then that will be the last finish of the day in the TFC Mad Monday series. Here we go. I believe this is our front D group on the road, not being shown as the front D group in the Zwift ranking, but according to Zwift Power, these are where your front riders registered on Zwift Power lie. This is Horace Polanis of the Swedish Swifters on the front here in that black arrow helmet, in the blue, white, and yellow jersey of the Swedish Swifters. Jay Silva up here as well, and Michael Alls. If I look really quick at the riders actually registered on Zwift Power here, Jimbo, the TFC rider, in that yellow TFC jersey, he is registered. Oris Polanis and Michael Alls also registered. The Michael Alls, the Rhino, wearing that Camo 1 jersey, the blue, white, and gray, and Oris Polanis in the white, yellow, and blue jersey, the Swedish Swifters jersey. And then Jimbo, if we just take a look at him really quick, wearing that TFC jersey. And those are your 3 Zwift Power registered riders in the front group here. And now Jimbo making a little bit of a move off the front of your D race. Jimbo, the TFC rider, TFC sitting in 3rd overall right now in the D race standings. They are about 50 points behind Zwift Scotland, so quite a deficit to close, but it would be great to see a TFC rider win in their own series today. This is Jimbo of the TFC squad pulling off the front of our D race. Looks like L Manager chasing from behind, but he is not registered on Zwift Power, so he will not be included in those final results. Michael Alls, the Rhino, along with that is Oris Polanis. Those 2 riders about 3 seconds back now. We'll see if they launch a sprint closer towards the finish. Still about 1.5 miles left to go to the finish of our D race. Head over to the Preems tab real quick, see if we can get any official results on some of those intermediates. As Jimbo, the TFC rider, riding on towards the finish here. Does not look like our Preems tab has updated yet, so we'll just have to wait for those official results on the intermediate points. Now, once again, if you are enjoying this live coverage and commentary of the TFC Mad Monday series, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the Zwift Race Place. so that you don't miss out on any more live coverage of these races and other community division races, as well as community division coaching tips and some other Zwift knowledge. As our D-Race coming back together here now. Jimbo of the TFC squad been caught by Michael Alls and Oris Polanis, the Swedish Zwifter there. And those three are your Zwift Power registered riders in the D-Race today. You can just ignore that Christmas sweater jersey on Jay Silva, as well as that white, gray, and orange Le Col jersey on M. Manager. Those two riders not registered on Zwift Power and will not be included in the final results. So it's a race between the three riders registered on Zwift Power who will be able to take home some points for their teams today. It's a battle between Zwift Scotland and Rhino for first place in this D League currently. And the Rhinos are winning with 250 points, followed by Zwift Scotland, 227. Zwift Scotland not represented in this front group here, but TFC, Rhino, and Swedish Swifters are. Swedish Swifters had a hard time taking points in this category last week, didn't get any points towards the D-Race, but now Michael Alls, the Rhino, launching a sprint here, followed by Jimbo of the TFC squad, but Michael Alls has got a nice gap here, about 14 meters, 14 seconds, not as realistic, about 1 second back to Jimbo, the TFC rider, chasing hard right now, and the gap is sitting steady around 16 meters. This is the finish to your D-Race coming up. Michael Alls, the Rhino, going early. They are within 1K to go now, but still about a half a mile left until that finish line. And Jimbo has brought back Michael Alls, not going to let him go that early. Jimbo, the TFC rider, just coming back into the screen here in that yellow jersey. See the rest of our pack coming back here, with the exception of Oris Pilatus. That is a major exception, actually, because Swedish Swifters had a chance to take some big points in the race today. But Jimbo, the TFC rider, now back on the front again. Jay Silva up here as well. And then we also see Michael Alls, the Rhino. They are now much closer to the finish. Only 0.2 of a mile to go now. Can see the finish arch in the distance. It is, of course, that natural arch created by the rock here in the desert. Jimbo is sprinting for the win here. These other two riders, M. Manager and Jay Silva, of course, not registered on Zwift Power, so he may be sprinting against them, but they will not matter. 4 points in the final standings. And Jimbo of the TFC squad, your Zwift Power winner on the day. Looks like Michael Alls, the Rhino, will be taking second, followed by Oris Polanis in third, Swedish Swifter. So, some notable takeaways from your D category finish here today. Swedish Swifters will boost their points a little bit with that finish from Oris Polanis in third place. The Rhinos, I believe, will stay in first place overall. But Zwift Scotland had a nice presence in the race today, but not as far up as the Rhinos on the leaderboard. So I believe the Rhinos will maintain and maybe even widen out their lead. TFC, we saw Jimbo taking the win there. We'll see if he can manage to overtake Zwift Scotland, or we'll see if the TFC team can manage to overtake Zwift Scotland for second place on the Cat D leaderboard and help them move up in the overall standings. TFC sitting third overall right now. So that win over the Swedish Swifters rider will be a nice feeling for them, as well as a large number of Zwift Scotland riders sitting second in the overall standings. So those are your results wrap-ups for the TFC Mad Monday race today. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe to the Zwift Race Place for more live community division racing coverage, community division coaching tips, and general Zwift knowledge if you enjoyed the stream. And remember, sign up for Veganuary, that 5-stage series coming up in January of 2021. Every Saturday at 16:30 GMT time with plenty of competitions, sprint, KOM, General GC, Team GC, and a Women's GC race in that series. And don't forget to check out my video on how to get the new Zwift Christmas sweater jersey if you don't have that yet, so that you and your avatar can ride in style this holiday season. Alright, that concludes our stream of the TFC Mad Monday race for today. Check back next Monday for the next race in the series, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.